Hello, 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 hello. Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. It's Tuesday tip time. How are you? I just driving through the streets. We got like 6 inches of snow day before yesterday, and it is hilarious driving right now. So I had to drop a kid off and quick come back, and I was like, chill out. It's all good. If you come on a little late, no big deal. That's self-care. Oh, today we are talking about the big three. The big three reasons why people don't give themselves care. And if you have more than the three I'm talking about today, think on it. What are the reasons why you don't give yourself care? Then put them in the comments and we'll address them today. I did a poll, and I'm constantly doing this poll and asking people, what are the big three reasons why you don't give yourself care? And these three just consistently come up again and again and again and again. And so I wanted to address each one, specifically concentrating on the last one, because that's truly the one that's sticky. Okay, so the first one, I just don't have time. I just don't have time to give myself care. Okay, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that that's valid. We are busier as a culture than we've ever been. We're doing more to be productive, and there's a lot happening. And when you think about often the first person that gets kind of pushed to the back of the line, often it's you. And so then you look back on your day and you're like, I just don't have time. I don't know where I would put it. Where would I put it? Where would I put this self-care? When I had two little kids, that was my big one, was like, I'm running around. I'm going to all these places and doing all these things. My kids were, I had very little kids when I was like, oh my God, I got to start caring for myself. And I remember looking at a woman in one of my like mommy and me classes, and she had makeup on. And I was like, how the hell is she doing this? How the hell is she getting makeup on? Like, it just had never occurred to me that I could take 5 minutes and put makeup on. It barely occurs to me now, just FYI. So let's talk about the time thing. I just want to tell you that what was most helpful for me was just remembering that self-care does not have to take any time. I am loath to make appointments. Literally, I hate appointments with the heat of 1,000 suns. They feel like have-tos. They feel like things I have to do, and that makes me feel really uncomfortable, and I just don't like it. So I had to work with self-care in a way that served me, and how that was breaking up with the idea that self-care had to involve appointments. So for me, self-care is simple and not appointment-based. Now, as we have talked about, self-care is deeply personal, and what works for me will not necessarily work for you. But I want you to start to consider that self-care doesn't have to take much time. And so what would that look like? What would that look like if you only had a moment in your day? If you only had 5 minutes in your day, what would it look like for you to give yourself self-care? And consider a challenge. Just be like, I'm going to give myself 3 acts of self-care today that take no time at all. What would it look like for you? The second thing that comes up as one of the big 3 reasons why people don't give themselves care is money. And we have already talked a little bit about this, but I want to tell you that self-care does not have to cost 1 cent at all. Self-care can cost 0 cents. And again, it has to work for you. So what is it for you? So I thought I would just tell you how I start my mornings, because all of my acts of self-care in the morning cost 0 cents. They don't cost anything. The first thing I do is I wake up about a half an hour before all my other family members wake up. That is a little bit of a price to pay, and I understand that for people. I tend to be a morning person, and I just work better in the morning, so we all have to make decisions about our time. So I wake up, and the first thing I do is I go in the bathroom, I scrape my tongue, I brush my teeth. Yes. What about brushing your teeth as an act of self-care? I go in the kitchen and I drink about a huge, almost as much as a liter of water because you wake up and you're dehydrated. So hydration as an act of self-care. I turn on the coffee pot, I come into my office and I do about a 10 to 15 minute meditation. Self-care. That's self-care. So now we're about, 15 minutes into my half hour routine in the morning. After my uh, after my meditation, I pull my journal out and I do some journaling. I have two journals, one that's a little bit more like feeling and spiritual and connection, and another that's more about like what's going on today, what do I have going. So it takes about another 10 minutes. Then I go pour myself a cup of coffee. None of this cost a cent. And so brainstorm a list of things that don't cost anything that would please you. Those are things that please me, and I love starting my day out that way. What is it that you could do that doesn't cost anything that could support you throughout your day? It doesn't have to be in the morning, it can be throughout the day. Okay, last one. Are you ready? Oh God, guilt. I feel bad when I take a little bit of time away from the people in my life, to give myself self-care. I want you to know I wrestled with this for a really long time. I snuck in, and I still do really. It's just natural for me. I think because I like solitude, I sneak in a lot of stuff alone, but while people are sleeping. And that just works for me. But let's talk about guilt. I used to negotiate with myself and say, well, you don't have to feel bad because you're going to be better able to serve the world if you have a fuller well, which is true. There's truth in that. And also, the last few years, it's been like, I don't need to justify caring for myself. You don't need to justify giving yourself care. And so I see now that it was a negotiating tactic that I would do with myself to say, oh, but Sarah, you don't have to feel bad about giving yourself care because you're going to be more able to give to more people. Huh? Yes, and you don't need to justify your own self-care. You're simply worthy of your own self-care. And you don't need to feel guilty about it because you're worthy. You're worthy of giving yourself some care in the way that it makes sense for you. I feel like I should tell you that something my therapist told me, I don't know, like 12 years ago, was guilt is the only learned emotion. We've been taught guilt, it's not a natural emotion. So anytime guilt comes up for me, I kind of look at it and go, yeah, that's old patterning and stuff that I don't hang out in anymore, if that's helpful to you. And then do it because you're worthy and you don't have to justify it. I wanted to read you this post. Man, I have kept this post for so long. I think it's like a year old. This is from Yoga Maris. And if you don't follow her on Instagram, I highly recommend. She's an impressive person. She has a movie out called I Am Maris, which talks about anxiety, and disordered eating. It's a profound movie. So she says, self-care isn't all face masks and pedicures. Sometimes it can look like pampering, but that's definitely not the end of the story. It can show up as creating healthy boundaries. Self-care can be separating yourself from toxic people you've previously felt obligated to keep in your life. Ding, ding. Self-care can be stepping away from social media for as long as you need to. Self-care can be saying no to a social invitation when you need to recharge alone. It can show up as prioritizing your health. Self-care can be taking your medication. Self-care can be going to therapy. Self-care can be preparing yourself a nourishing meal. And it can show up as prioritizing joy. Self-care can be eating the birthday cake. Self-care can be running around in the sprinklers like a little kid. Self-care can be turning on your favorite cheesy movie when all you need is a good laugh. Simply put, self-care is becoming your own advocate and recognizing that it is not selfish to compassionately put your needs first. Service to others is important, but we simply cannot pour from an empty cup. The energy we put into being our own caretakers is an investment that maximizes our ability to impact the world. And a final note, you do not need to earn self-care. You do not just deserve it. Or you do, excuse me, let me read it again. You do not just deserve it when you've worked particularly hard. You are always, always deserving of your own love. So I leave you on that note. We are coming up, we're 11 days into daily self-care. I would love to hear how this landed with you. I would love to hear if you are offering your self-care. And if you're not, you're in one of two camps, either on it and doing it, or the other side, you haven't quite started. Hey, stick with me a minute. It's okay. Start now. It's never too late. Look at your day ahead and be like, what can I do today? What do I need today? What would serve me today? You're so worthy. If you have not registered for February Love on Yourself month, please use the link below and sign up and join the party. Register to win $12,000 worth of prizes and take good care of yourself. Have a great day. See ya.